Republican Senator Roger Marshall from the state of Kansas. Senator, thanks for joining us. So how is this vote-a-rama moving along? Could you be on track when it comes to final passage of the rescissions, these DOGE cuts, for another vote that's 50-50 and Vice President Vance breaks the tie?
Well, it's moving slowly and painfully, as these always do. I think it's going to be a late night, and yes, I expect Vice President Vance to make an appearance tonight.
The cuts outlined in the package were handed down to the Senate. Not usually how this process works. I think the last time this happened may have been during the Clinton administration. Your colleague, Senator Murkowski, pointed that out on the Senate floor last night ahead of the procedural vote to begin. Take a listen.
We're lawmakers. We should be legislating. What we're getting now is a direction from the White House and being told, this is the priority. We want you to execute on it. We'll be back with you with another round. I don't accept that. I'm going to be voting no.
Even if you agree with the substance of the cuts, do you have any concerns here about the methodology, about the Senate just kind of taking orders from the White House when it comes to what you guys are supposed to be doing, appropriating, legislating?
Look, I think the biggest problem that this country faces is our $37 trillion national debt, that we're spending $1 trillion a year on interest. If you think about where these cuts are coming from, USAID, our own government accounting office, our own IEG, Inspector General have said, look, that USAID is at systemic risk, that there's significant fraud, waste, and abuse going on, that they don't really have an audit system. So we have identified, with congressional help and congressional review, significant waste and fraud. Think about a USAID just recently, a $500 million fraud scheme of bribes here in this country, overseeing those programs. In New Guinea, a $100 million embezzlement issue, $50 million of waste on medical equipment in Zambia. So the fraud, the waste, the abuse is out there. We need to do something, and this is some, I would say, low-hanging fruit. I wish that we had a bit bigger rescission package.
But isn't the 10-year projection for debt something like another $20 trillion, even with these cuts? The idea that this is the solution way overstated, that the real money is in Medicare, in the Pentagon budget, Social Security, places that it's much more politically difficult to really make the kind of spending cuts or tax increases that would seriously address the $37 trillion debt.
Yeah, well, certainly Congress has a spending problem, and we need to address that. But I think that we want to be frugal with our money, that I was taught to be frugal, to be concerned with other people's money, which this is, to take the very best care of it that I can. I don't care how much debt we're in, or even if we had a surplus, I don't want to see waste and fraud like we've been seeing through USAID. I do think that both parties need to do a better job of working towards a balanced budget. Again, our national debt, the biggest problem our country faces long term.
Also on the table is about $1 billion of funding for public broadcasting, NPR stations, PBS stations around the country. A lot of people in rural areas where there really isn't any news other than these stations are expected to be hit hard. There's a story in USA Today from your state about one such station, Smoky Hills PBS, that broadcasts to about 1.2 million Kansans across 71 counties. And the general manager of the station says they use the federal funding not for any national program, but to operate transmitters, cover salaries, create local programming in Kansas, like showing high school wrestling. These are the same rural parts of your state that also have Kansans without access to broadband, Kansans who are struggling seriously with poverty. I'm wondering, are you concerned about that? Are you going to work with the state to fill any gaps that these cuts would leave when it comes to Kansas public broadcasting?
Look, if there are any gaps, I think you're way overstating them. I know exactly where that radio station is. I can think of a dozen radio stations that are overlapping with that. In today's world, I haven't met a person lately that didn't have a phone and access to news and weather. Look, in Kansas, it's not a matter of if, but when a tornado is going to hit your property. So you know when the weather is coming, and you're going to turn on your radio, you want a local television station probably with the radar. And as far as an emergency emergencies going off in the middle of the night, most of us in those areas have a special weather alert system that's going to wake us up as well. So I think that's way overstated. Look, if those stations want to stay open and they can make it, I wish them the very, very best. But again, in the backdrop of a country that's taking in $5 trillion but spending $7 trillion a year, I think that this is one of the niceties we can do without.
Yeah, I mean, Smoky Hills PBS is a television station, not a radio station. But Republican Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.